Welcome to Continuing Studies, a podcast for higher education podcasters who want to learn, connect, and to get inspired. I'm Neil McFedrin, founder of Higher Ed Pods and Podium Podcast Company.
And I'm Jennifer Lee, founder of JPod Creations. If you're podcasting in higher ed, you're not alone. There is a fast-growing community out there, and we're here to help you tap into it.
That's right, Jen. And for Higher Ed PodCon in July in Cleveland, the cutoff for speaker submissions is the end of February. So that's coming up. We've got a whole bunch of really good ones in, but because we're going to 2 days, we've got that many more slots. And so get your submissions in. The website, higheredpodcon.com, has all the details. If you have any questions, happy to answer it. If you're thinking about something and you're not quite sure, reach out. I would love to chat with you about this.
Yeah, and ideas as well for the show, if there's anything that...
Our show.
But our show, we'd love to hear from you too. And speaking of ideas for Higher Ed PodCon, actually, one of our guests today is going to submit. I'm really excited because we have people that we interviewed. I want to say they were one of the first 5.
One of our first 5 episodes.
And Neil and I have worked with them since on their podcast, Innovation Fuel. So in this episode, we talk to Dave Keighron and Dr. Gelareh Farhadian, who has had Innovation Fuel, the podcast, for 5 years. They were working under University Canada West. I've been with them for over 4 years, bringing their podcast to life on the production side.
The last 4 have been much better than the first season.
Oh, thank you. That was a great answer. Good answer. This is co-host synergy. And that's what I learned about Dave and Gelareh. They have great co-host synergy as well. And Neil, you've even helped us recently do the big move because it was time to move on from University of Canada West. And Neil, along with the awesome people at Podium Podcast Co. and JPod Creations, and we moved them to be their own entity where they've created their own business. So
yeah, that was quite the project, actually. Jen, you've recently helped them make another move, which is move their hosting over to TrueFans, Sam Sethi's new hosting product. And I think that's super exciting.
yeah, I'm really excited. Sam has been amazing at helping us move it over. And we're learning. It's a good thing to learn. And this is something for our audience is that if you are creating a podcast now with a particular institution or a company, your podcast could change hands or move on to different people. And you can't just move a podcast simply by putting it on other platforms. So lots to dig into with Dave and Gelareh. And I'm really excited because it's been a few years and there's been quite a few changes. Lots to catch up on.
So much to catch up on. Let's jump into our chat.
So how are you guys today, Dave and Gelareh?
Amazing. Glad to be back here and glad to share our adventure because we've been on an adventure, a lot of adventures and seen some really unique stories along the way. And now we're taking those, we're accelerating them. So
thank you, guys. First, I want to send my condolences to my people of Iran for this modern massacre. Thanks for being here, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you for reminding us about that too. Yeah, so maybe since we last met with you, but why don't you just give us the top line and then let's dig into some of these evolutions that you guys have encountered along the way.
So when we first started this journey, we saw a gap in the market. And the gap in the market was that we wanted these small businesses coming in and their stories coming into the classroom and interacting with students because a lot of the domestic-based product in Canada is small businesses and medium businesses. So we wanted to bring those into the classroom. Fast forward from that, since we last chatted, we had lots of success. That we've interviewed lots of different companies that have gone on to do some really great things. And we're like, oh my God, we got to take those and tell their story further. We need to bring those and show how those businesses have evolved. And Gelareh came up with a great idea to do that in his through publication and peer review publication. So we brought that in and we started taking those stories after the fact, 3-6 months later, bringing them back and then taking them into publication and having them published in big journals like Sage and Emeralds, Ivy, ILE School of Business. We're working at a variety of different places where we've been very successful in getting these across. And from that, we also thought, hey, the other part that we're really struggling with is how do we get this back into the classroom for faculty to be able to engage with further? And so we've now created a thing called Innovation Fuel Studio, where we use artificial intelligence to bring it back into the classroom and help the faculties activate these cases and activate the students in playing with them.
I want to add that is So Innovation Fuel is started to build case studies. That was the first objective of the Innovation Fuel. So the case studies are just a structured narrative and showing the challenges of entrepreneur or founder or directors on the special issues. And then it is how we can connect them to the theories as well. When we start writing the cases, that was because we had those questions around the structures, questions that around theories as well, right? So it was easy for us to turn them in the written cases and go to the peer-reviewed platforms like Sage, Ivy, Emerald, or case centers. So those are as well. However, we know that the generative AIs come with the challenges for faculty that they actually really, really want to make sure students are learning and there is going to be critical thinking. There is two mode, as the Dave said. It's a faculty mode. So they have the case through the podcast or in the teaching node of the published case study. So they have a faculty mode. When they unlock the faculty mode, they can create assignments, lesson plans, rubrics, and also they can build role play with the founder or the CEO or director as well. So in the student mode, a student will say that, okay, I'm working on this case, automatically the case will pop up and it's a summary and the link of the case. The student can listen to that one. They will say that, okay, now I want to work on the first challenge. And then they have to present their recommendation to the CEO through the AI. And they have to start role playing and try to convince the CEO of their presentations. We try to simulate the role play with the founder, CEO, or directors who was the host of the case. And that is students will never, ever, ever get the solutions through the AI. They just try to convince it with the fact data. They can bring it from the case or from the publicly available data.
Wow. There's so much there. It's amazing sort of where you guys have gone since we last chatted. I want to kind of roll back a little bit here and click on some of these things along your path because you've put a lot together here. So when we chatted with you last, what you were doing was you were taking the traditional educational way for business school of case studies, and each one of those was an episode essentially. So each episode was a case study. Before we kind of jump back into the AI stuff, I think what's interesting is because we've talked about this on some of our previous episodes here about the scholarly output of podcasts, or a podcast being the scholarly output, which is what you were doing. But since we last spoke with you, you've taken this extra step of putting it through peer review and getting it submitted to journals. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Like that is super interesting because there's a lot of people talking about that right now.
There is several ways you can put your podcast as a scholarly work. So one thing is that you find several peer review to review all your episodes. And they say that, okay, we reviewed this episode and it's a theoretically rigor as well. And also is academic rigor. And then the questions are not biased, not leading. And those are the way you can peer review your own podcast only. So that will be part of your scholarly work. So when you, for example, record the episode on February, for example, 2026, in 6 months later or a year later, you have to go back to that same episode and see what was the development of this case, right? So that can be your story and narrative for written case study as well. And then what challenges they are facing. And the teaching note as well. So what Dave and I did to prove it. So we brought those written cases to our classrooms and actually used it and refined it to make sure that it's doable in the classroom. So it's a 90 minutes or it's going to be group assignments. So it's very important you test your own cases before even thinking about it can go further. But the other ways of doing this is that's what Dave and I are doing, working on several different papers about, for example, connecting these entrepreneurial discourse theories. So this is on several papers. We submitted or we are working to finish the manuscripts of those ones that say that what is a trend, for example, regarding SDG, entrepreneurship constraints in BC or Canada or ecosystems. Or another paper that we are working is about how the podcast can impact student learning in the classroom. So what we did over a year, we exposed specific classrooms with the episodes, and then we have go through this methodology of before, during, and afters. We have different surveys and then focus group with the students to see how it's going to impact their learning. It is really important how you can bring those content because you are creating lots of data and information and content. How are you going to connect them? How are you going to find the dots between them, not just on the isolated episodes as well? And also, it's because you want those good narratives. It is really important to see what your podcast trying to achieve regarding the learning of the students, right? And then you can find good data on
And
those.
like Gelareh said, it's the opportunity for future learning. Hey, we went through this element over the last 5 years. We peer reviewed these elements. We'd also taking study from this element to see, hey, what is a better practice for the way we can deliver this? How can we teach entrepreneurship better? How can we teach marketing better? And even to the point is that we're going the next evolution that Jen sort of alluded to is we have another podcast called Marketing Corner Talks that's focused on marketing. We have another podcast called Education in Action where it's focused on the practice of education and the teaching of experiential learning in those elements, and all with the same elements. How do we leverage artificial intelligence? How do we leverage peer review? How do we leverage study in order to enhance that classroom experience?
And Galareh's been so good at getting all these papers into journals. I know about one of them. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got into London?
So when we wanted to publish a case, we were thinking about which venue is your best and can get more attention. So it's when you publish your case, you can see that how many people are using it actually, right? And also you always need a consent from the founder as well, right? So to publish their cases, unless, for example, many case venue, they are looking what happened next or something that it's not in this publicly available, right? So if you're using something very internal and ask the founder to tell something in confidence to you in this email or but their own word, you can use it in teaching notes. So when you're doing it, you need to have a consent from the founder as well. So that was another process and that was really good.
Yeah. One other thing to note here is that one of the things that we're doing and what podcast has the advantage of doing is that we have up-to-date content. One of the
Yes.
challenges that we face as faculty is the content you're getting sometimes is so way outdated that it doesn't have any relevancy anymore. So this element in building these is creating a funnel of or library or resources of continuously updated content. And that's going to be more relevant to students and more connected to what their future is going to be.
Oh, interesting. So do you have to pay to put these submissions forward for some of these journals?
We never faced this one. So even we have these open access journals, we never faced something they want to pay. And also some venue actually pay you to do it.
Right. Yeah. Well, so they should. And so is there a separate designation for it being a podcast versus a written or a more traditional monograph?
What do you mean designations?
Oh, I just like how do they categorize it? Like if the output is the podcast, like how is it differentiated when I go into
Of
the
course.
case center, for example, and they've sort of
course.
so they're
Yeah.
actively grouping together podcasts as a scholarly output?
I mean, again, just by, what is a scholarly output is it's about peer reviewed, right?
Yeah.
So you need someone review your work and say that it's rigor, is methodology correct, is it ethical, all of those stuff, right? So by just recording your podcast, you cannot count as your scholarly work unless it will be peer reviewed. Again, so one way of doing it is that each podcast, as we do, is a written case, right? Some of them, for example, Emerald, they have 3 phases of 3 different people review your work, right? So that's why it takes time. So, for example, if you submit your case today in any platform, Ivy, Sage, Emerald, even International Open Access Journal, with all of them, it may take minimum 6 months to finish it, sometimes a year, right?
Yeah.
So that is you may see it as a constraint for sure. That's why it's giving this peer reviewed and it's count as your scholarly work, right? But we don't want just to stop and wait for 1 year to get published. So that's why we try recording the episode. And also, again, you need to find a place that review podcasts, academic podcasts, to review all the episodes, not just one episode and written one.
Mm. Okay. The
That's a
whole,
lot of work.
yeah,
It
so you're-
is. And you need a lot of patience.
well, that's the process. I mean, overall, for submitting to these journals, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's a system that's been built over decades.
That's it's reliable. That's why you
Yeah.
can say that it is when something come published from them, it's been reviewed several times. And some people will put the stamp on that and say that this is valid, it's reliable, right?
Yeah.
If it's just the self-published, who can say it's valid, reliable? Who can say that?
Interesting. So, okay, so maybe we should, let's dig back into the next evolution, which is back to this AI whole process you guys have developed. That's super, super interesting. So you're then taking these cases and you've created this whole AI wrapper around it, basically.
So like one of the challenges is how do you get it back in the classroom again? Like how do you get that activated in the classroom? And so AI technology is here. Now we got to figure out how to use AI technology within, and Gelareh makes some points. We've been very purposeful and very meaningful here because ethics and ethical use of this element, and especially in institutions, has been very challenging and trying to figure out the navigate that element. And so we've already found a technology that's within AI called RAG technology, and she can talk to you about the RAG technology piece. But how do we put barriers around this element and still bring it back in the classroom where the faculty can use it to develop these cases, to assignments, and then where students can actually interact with it. So
I love that full circle, if you will. So it's for the classroom and then it's going through a whole peer review, get it published into a journal, and then you're taking it back into the classroom to apply and to learn and to probably evolve things as you go.
It is, and also just say that it's not just for faculty and a student. Also, it has to be benefit for entrepreneurs and CEO or founders to come to play the role in this ecosystem, right? Another things for them, it's not only be heard in the different platforms, not just a podcast, but also be in the academic journals as well. And they can get benefit from the results of those what students provide or faculty can provide it and see try to resolve their challenges. And also even so we are trying a next step. We are creating a chatbot for our episodes. We have the contents of all episodes.
Smart.
So you can ask questions about, for example, the challenge. I have a challenge of this, for example, fundraising in Canada. So we can give you the several episodes that is related to that one as well. So you as an entrepreneur can listen to the other entrepreneurs and see that's how they resolve their issues about fundraising and how they did it. And the same chatbot can work for faculty as well to find, for example, they say that I want to have a cases related to technology adaptation model. And then say that, okay, these are the cases can be related to those. We are in the middle of developments. We are in the testing phase, actually. You're testing to see the next step will be connecting to the innovationfield.ca.
And question, because I know that Dave and I talked about this before, and you see this as something that's going to become like a subscription services for teachers.
yeah, so we're at the post that again at the beginning stages of this when we're testing to see what really, because again we're solving a problem and we're trying to find solution for a problem. We got to put the user in there and figure out what works best for the user. And I think in this early stage, yes, eventually we got to figure out how to monetize it in a different way. And we've talked about the membership subscription based element, but yeah, we're still
Early
really
days.
Yeah. Well, I think what's great is that so often academic work, research, in this case, business case studies go into these journals and it just stays in the academic world. I love how what you guys are not bringing it back into the classroom, but the point you just made, which just really resonated with me, is like there's making it accessible for outside of the classroom, for the entrepreneurs, the practical side of it. So it's like making all this research and these learnings and these insights open to the general, in this
Audience.
case, entrepreneurial world, which is super cool.
It's often is that when you look at the academic outputs, papers or case study, maybe it won't be much for the public audience, right? But when it's come talking about some narratives, it's one entrepreneur telling their experience with the wording of the other entrepreneurs. It can resonate or it can be useful for them.
I think it's just so cool because like you're really taking the words off the page. And like you said, Gelareh, you're able to hear the authenticity of the entrepreneur's story. You're taking it to the next level. It's not just you reading it, it's actually hearing their emotion. And it's hard. It's hard. So it'd be nice to have a resource like that. And one thing before we go, just the other piece we didn't touch on, something else with Innovation Fuel. Dave, something you and I have been working on with Innovation Fuel is Douglas College is taking our episodes and putting it in their library. Tell us a
Oh,
little
cool.
bit about that.
We actually were involved in a library at UCW with the podcast before, and now they're going in. Douglas is just taking over and taking those further into the library, to the journal. Gelareh is the best one to explain how this works.
When you want to see your episode in your Google Scholar, so you cannot just add it manually. Yes, you can, but it's not very valuable, right? So you need to have a publisher, an academic publisher, you're like a universities and their open library. So it's like a academic home for your episodes. When you have that episode at an academic library, then automatically it will shows in your Google Scholar, and it can shows your as your scholar work.
I forget just because I'm working with them a lot on all these different projects, and it's been really exciting to work with you guys for over 4 years and see how you guys have grown.
And we'll put links to, we'll make sure that we get links to everything we just talked about here. So I think it would be great for people to see this in action. So how does this look in the Douglas College library, and anything you sort of want to share? I know stuff's in iteration, so we probably can't share everything, but we will share as much as we can in the show notes, links to all this amazing stuff you guys are building.
You can find I will share the Innovation Fuel Studio link with you. However, it's so easy if you go to your ChatGPT and just in the apps, search for us. Yes,
You got it
Innovation
everything.
Fuel. Yeah, Innovation Fuel Studio and just will come up.
Oh, awesome. Okay, that's great too. Well, I think this has been a fantastic conversation. I mean, congratulations on so many things that you've accomplished since we last spoke. And we're excited to keep seeing your progress. And we'll have to get you back on another 60 some odd episodes, basically, because we'll have to hear how you've continued to train the AI and to continue to move forward with all the exciting things you're
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you. Bye.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around what they're doing, and I work with them daily. I think what they're doing is amazing.
Wow, that was a conversation jam-packed with information. Gelareh has so many ideas and she's doing so many cool things. Dave too, but Gelareh really had some stuff that she really shared with us there. I love that.
Yeah, I think their whole idea is brilliant. And I think, like a lot of the people that we've had on our podcast recently, they're kind of cutting edge and they're doing the groundwork that's going to lead to some really neat innovations in the future when it comes to higher ed podcasting.
Yeah, I totally agree, Jen. It's interesting how our last few episodes have really been looking at a little bit more forward facing future and ways to use podcasting from an academic, scholarly, teaching perspective. And I think that's what's super exciting about this space. Not only is podcasting such an amazing channel form for folks in higher education, it is also a platform that is part of the teaching process and is attached to so much that is going on in the AI world as well too. Great episode. Thank you for bringing them back on, Jen.
It's also neat to just see how we're archiving history now and we're documenting it. Like the fact that Douglas College is on board and taking all their podcast episodes and putting them in their audio library. So I think it's just a really neat thing that we're starting to see.
That's great. Yeah, I totally agree.
Thank you for tuning in to the Continuing Studies podcast, a podcast for higher education podcasters. We hope you found this episode informative and inspiring. If you enjoyed the show, we encourage you to follow and subscribe to our podcast on your preferred platform so you'll never miss an episode. But if you found this episode pretty valuable, please consider sharing it with your friends and colleagues who also might be interested in higher education podcasts. We also invite you to join your peers on higheredpods.com, where you can connect with other podcasters in higher education and learn from others in the field. Thank you for being part of our community. We look forward to continuing to bring you valuable insights in conversations around higher education podcasts. See you in the next episode.
Bye-bye.